Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Talk Podcast. It's been a while, but today I am back with a new video. So, I'm talking about, or I'm actually reacting to a video, a conversation with Kevin Samuels and a young lady. She's mid 20s or closer to the end of her 20s, and she's a mother of two girls. And her question was, what can she expect in terms of dating and getting into a new relationship with a man, right? And he made it pretty clear. The lady, I need to say, she was very calm in the conversation. She didn't come there to fight or argue, and she was pretty honest about how things are. So he told her, you can not expect more than the father of your children gave you, because that's the highest you can give to a man, is to give him your womb and to carry out his children. But if you decided to do that with a man that you don't even respect and value, the likelihood of you reaching a higher man in terms of status is going to be quite hard, right? And he kind of explained to her that somebody else is not trying to pay more, a higher price for someone who got the most valuable, which is your womb and having children together. And they now have to step in and pay a higher price for it while he had it more or less for free, if that makes sense. And it's true. People don't like to see this type of comparison, but it's the same thing with body count. Nowadays, we hear women talking about, oh, body count doesn't matter until you ask them, because they love to pretend it doesn't matter. But intrinsically, it does matter. And especially it matters to men. No guy, no man on earth, except he's someone who's, messing around with hundreds of women, he's not going to care. But a respectable man, he is going to care. He's not looking to start paying for something that has been used. The more use something has, the less in value it has. And people might not like this because they take it very emotional and they think, oh, but we're humans, we are not things. But that's how life works in general. Nobody is trying to pay the same price or a higher price for, let's say, a car that has been used and compared to a car that is brand new. It doesn't make sense. So that was kind of the explanation to that point. And she understood it. I think she took it in quite humble, and she didn't argue about it. So moving on in the conversation, they were talking about how nowadays people don't even think about or understand the risk of getting pregnant. We are giving our most special to random man because, there's always a backup. Society is so advanced that we don't even think about the risk of getting pregnant and then possibly not coming out of that situation alive, because we have, medicine has advanced so far, and even the likelihood of getting pregnant by somebody who's not responsible, who maybe is not financially stable, you don't have to care nowadays, especially when you live in the West. There's always going to be some social system that's going to back you up being a woman, right? You're going to get food stamps, you're going to get social security, someone is going to somehow pay for your rent. So it takes away the responsibility of actually thinking about, oh, how am I going to deal with my life and the child, not thinking about these things, because society has made life so comfortable in the West for women to just do whatever and not face the consequences, right? I mean, for sure, you're not going to have a luxury life, but you're also not necessarily going to end up in the street, because there's always someone there. There's always this system to lean back towards, right? The other thing they were talking about, and you guys can listen to it because I added the video towards the end. But one thing that I found very interesting, and I appreciate her honesty, was when he asked her, if you would have a son, she has daughters, right? And my thing is, like, if you have daughters, what is the advice you would give them? I'm sure you wouldn't want your daughters to be in that situation, getting pregnant for a man that's not committed to you, a man that you don't even think highly of, right? And then just put yourself in that situation. But the question was, imagine you had sons. and they grow older, they're ready to get married or they're ready to start a family, would you advise your sons to get in a relationship with a girl who already has children by someone else and start raising a child or two children that are not yours? Or would you rather tell your sons, look, you go out there and find a woman that you can start your family off with together, that you can create family together. She doesn't have kids, you don't have kids, and you guys come together and build your own family. And she was honest about it. She's like, this is not what we like to hear, but realistically, she would advise her sons to start his own family instead of picking a girl that already has her own kids. And you don't even know what type of man she's dealing with in the past, meaning that person is somehow always going to be around and involved. She would advise her sons not to deal with that. And that is the truth. That is the truth. But a lot of women today don't like the truth. And I get it, because the truth is not always comfortable. The truth doesn't always make us feel good, but it has to be said. And these are topics that younger women need to hear because it is very important. The other day, I was in a chat conversation with a young lady, and I think she completely got me wrong. She thought I am going against single mothers. I am not. She's like, they're doing a great job and they're trying the best for their children. I see that. And you have to be honest, you need to do the best for your child because you're already in that position. But my point was, if you can advise someone not to go in that position, wouldn't that be the right thing to say? But she was all in her feelings, women supporting women, even though it's not the best, even though it's bad choices, even though we're pushing bad behaviors, women support women. And she just got angry and all over the place for no reason. So guys, I would like for you to listen to the end, like watch the clip, the conversation between a young lady and Kevin Samuels. And anyone out there who doesn't know Kevin Samuels, especially in the Black community, I would recommend to listen into it. Some people might not like it, but you need to get away from your feelings and just listen to the message. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, and we had a bunch of crazy women celebrating his death, right? Because they couldn't deal with someone calling out the bad behaviors. They couldn't deal with someone, talking about these things that have been going wrong for decades, and it would have forced them to be accountable for their own choices. But to me, this is very important. These are things that we actually all know, but we are now so advanced and so modern that we are denying basic human traits. These are things that adults around us are supposed to teach us, but either they are or they're not, or we're just choosing to ignore what they're saying. And there's so many things that we could change if we just sit down together and talk to each other more, if we are honest to each other. And we can all not deny that. And over the time, over decades now, so many things have been going wrong. And altogether, as a people, it's not beneficial to us, especially in the Black community, where you see there's a lack of family, right? You have a bunch of people doing everything on their own. Nobody really needs anybody anymore, but long term, it's not benefiting us. And that's something that I believe has to change. Once again, talking about Kevin Samuels, no, ladies, he's not only talking to women, he actually used to talk with men first for over 3 years, because this new modern times and feminism is not only affecting us women, but also young men. Things that actually are common sense are very hard for us to understand nowadays. And it's just holding us back. However, enjoy. Watch the conversation with the woman and Kevin Samuels. I think it's very interesting. See you in the next one.
Mother of two calls in the show and questions Mr. Samuel on some of the things that he says about single mothers.
I guess or my question is, because I completely get how like having children can, I guess, negatively or positively, depending on who you're asking. But for the most part, people, I can see how they could make somebody not want to marry you in the long term. But I guess
What's the ultimate question you have? Because you're kind of
what should we expect, like, since you're saying that we shouldn't necessarily be
expect from
expecting
me.
as far as dating, like,
Yeah,
what
I
should
can answer. Let me answer that question for you. You can expect no higher than what you got from the children's father. That's who you chose to make a baby with. You have one kid or two kids? Two?
two,
By one or two men.
one?
That's the top bar. You can expect no higher than that from men because that's the man you chose to give the highest honor you can give to any man on the planet. Men do not want to pay more than the previous driver. You're older as a woman, you've reproduced, and name me a product on the market that gains value with use and age. It doesn't. That's why who you make a baby with matters so much. That's the top line. Also, when you said you can see how it could be a negative or a positive, depending upon it's rare. What situations would it be a positive for another man?
Well, I feel like and I'm not a man, so I can't speak from a man's point of view, but I guess I can imagine, like, for older men who may not have been able to have their own children,
They can buy.
it
Well,
may not be that big of a negative.
if they wanted children, okay, rarely. See, that's another utopian idea women have been told that older men who didn't have a child. No, if a man, especially a successful man, wanted to have kids, he could have. And just because they didn't have theirs, they don't want yours either. If they wanted kids, there are plenty of women who want to have children. Just like women say, you could adopt. But why would a man want to get to his latter years not having fathered any children and then want the financial and emotional responsibility of another man's children? That's hard. You're not young to be chasing kids around and dealing with that. But unfortunately, these are the options that women have after they choose to have a child out of wedlock, especially as you start moving up. But let me go back. Why, when I said that you can't get any, your BD is the top line, why did you make that face like, damn?
Because I feel like I was young when I had
What did
children.
I
That's
just
not.
say? What did I just say, guys? You cannot keep using this reason. I was young. First one out of my mouth. First thing out of my mouth is you ladies got to stop saying I was young. It was a mistake. It was a learning experience. No, strict accountability. The world doesn't owe you or me an understanding, young lady. You have two kids, not one. The world could even understand one. It's an accident, condom broke, on birth control. But two, that's a plan. What's the child's father doing?
I mean, not to go into too much detail, but it turned into an abusive relationship. So eventually I had to step away from the situation. We were engaged, but I kept putting it off for obvious reasons. And then something happened and I was like, we just can't do this no more. So I stepped away.
Is he still involved in the kid's life?
As much as he can be.
All right.
Considering the situation.
So when you made that face, it was because the top line was a man that you don't think too highly of, apparently. And I can respect that, man, but I'm sorry. You're coming to other men in the world and saying, hey, I would like marry me and accept children with me from a man that I don't think too highly of. That don't sound too good. I mean, make it sound good. I mean, I don't sound too good to me.
I mean, when you put it like that,
that's the way it is. Ma'am, when I asked you about your child's father, you winced like, ooh, that's the top line? Well, ma'am, the highest honor you can give a man is to take his seed into the next generation. The man you're supposed to do that for is supposed to man you have respect for, reverence for. You think enough of him to want to risk your life to carry his child, because you can die in this process, right? But see, that's the point. Today, modern women, we've civilized the world in general to where having a baby really doesn't cost you anything. You get pregnant, you assume you're going to live. You assume you're going to live. You assume the child is going to be healthy, and you assume that child is going to make it into adulthood, because men have civilized the world in general and damn near all but eliminated uh, women's death in pregnancy. Infant mortality is at all-time lows. Have a kid, you can rely on the government to have some sort of safety blanket, even if it just comes down to, if you don't use it, food and that other kind of stuff. And you're out dating, and just like you, the men you want have options. That doesn't make you a bad person, but it does say that, do you have a son or a daughter?
2 daughters.
If you had sons, would you want him to bring home a woman with 2 kids from and start his own family?
I'm gonna be honest. I would prefer him to start his own family. She made him happy, cool. But if we're gonna be honest, you would tell your children you would want them to start a family on their
Well,
own.
thank you for being honest, man. And what I need you ladies to start understanding is every man you run into is somebody's son. And just like you would love yours, they love theirs.